Hey everyone, and welcome to Focus Your Ads. In this video, we're going to be talking about locations, negative locations, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on this. There are some easy pitfalls to fall into, so I'm going to make sure that you can avoid those and we can set this up properly. So let's dive into my computer and I will show you exactly how to set up locations. So to find location settings, we have to go into our campaign. So you're inside your campaign here. And we're going to go over and find our location. So in this setup I have right now with Google, sometimes it's a little different, but in most cases it's going to be under audience, keywords, and content. And you're going to find locations under this. So the options we have here, we have locations and we have location exclusions. So the difference here is locations is what you want to target and exclusions is what you want to eliminate. So for example, if we're targeting all the United States and we want to exclude Hawaii, well, targeting United States would include Hawaii, but we can come over here now and hit an exclusion and add an exclusion that's going to eliminate Hawaii. Even though we're targeting it, it's still going to eliminate because the exclusion is going to take priority over the location targeting. So let's pick a spot here. Let's go and find a spot that we want to target. When you want to move around this map, you can click on it, drag. You have the plus button over here. You can zoom in that way. You can also expand it with this button here. That expands it out so you can see it a bit better. If you want to zoom in, you can't just scroll your middle wheel on your mouse. You have to hold down Control, and now you can scroll that middle wheel on your mouse. And you can drag it around here, and we can find a location we want to target. But you can't actually target anything from this location here. You can look at it, but you can't target it from that map. But we can add them in now if we go to this pencil here. So click on the pencil. As long as we're under locations, click on the pencil. And now we get to type in a location. Now, before we do, we have two options here. We have a radius and we have a location. So we can actually decide to pick a location and enter it in here, and we can target a certain radius, so a circle around the location that we put in there. Or we can select a location and type it in, and it's going to target that location. So we have North End Furnaces, and I believe when we were talking about this before, we were doing Chicago. So let's add in Chicago here. And we have two options. We have target or nearby. Target is going to target that location. Nearby is going to give us more options. I'll do nearby first, and you can see that now we have all these other options of locations that are nearby. It might give you some ideas on other locations that you need to target. So we're going to click on target. So I'm going to click on target Chicago. And as you can see, now I'm targeting Chicago. But if I want to expand this further, because it's just this little area here, which is probably going to include a lot of people because it's Chicago, but we could also include other areas by looking at this map. So again, I'm holding down the Control key and I'm able to zoom in or out. And you can zoom out, and now you can see that maybe I want to target this city here. So I'm going to type it in, and we can now hit target, and now we have this city here. We can now look around, and if you're familiar with the location you're trying to target, you can continue to grab different locations around here like this, and we'll target that one. So this could be a little tedious if you're trying to target a nice big broad area around your business. So maybe you're in Chicago and you want to target Chicago and all the surrounding areas. And there's actually an easier way to do this. So we can check these off and get rid of them all. We could go over to radius now, and we could go Chicago in here. Now we have Chicago, we can hit target. And what you've noticed is it's already put a circle out there for me. And what it did was it took this 20-mile radius. So if I typed in Chicago, it automatically put that 20-mile radius around Chicago. If we want to say, let's do 100 miles now, and we could do it again, Chicago. We can see that now we have a 100-mile radius around Chicago. So we have a really big area. And this is a nice, easy way if you want to find, if you want to target a large area around a certain business, then this is a great way to do that. Now, if we're happy with our locations, we can hit save, and we can now move over to exclusions. So we can come in here, we can now hit this pencil down here, and we can pick our exclusions. So we, again, do the same thing, move around your map. So let's say we don't want to show up in Rockford, so we can come in here and say Rockford, and we can now select the location to exclude, just like this. So all of Rockford is going to be excluded. So I can hit save. And now we're no longer targeting Rockford, but we are targeting everything else around. So again, you can see there's some overlap here. So what's going to happen with this is the exclusion is going to take the priority here. Chicago area is going to be targeted, but this Rockford area is going to be excluded, so that will take priority and you won't show up in that area. But what about this here? We have this target within a target. So that's actually not going to change anything at all at this time. But I'm going to show you a trick with this that we can do. So this could come in handy for someone that has a local business and you want to target certain areas, but maybe you don't want to spend quite as much on these outskirt areas because you are based in Chicago proper. You don't want to target this area out here. So I'm going to show you a way to actually fix this in a bit. So let's go back to locations. Let's set this up. Okay, so let's go to radius again. And let's add in another one here, 50 miles Chicago, just to give ourselves one more to work with, and hit save on that. And now we got this nice set of rings here, and you could do as many as you want. You could continue this, and I wouldn't go too crazy, but you could have maybe 5 of them, depending on how far you're targeting. This is a pretty wide radius that we're targeting. So if you're doing even a smaller radius, maybe you're doing 10 miles, 5 miles, and 20 miles, something like that might be more reasonable. But you can also use the same technique I'm going to show you. So now I want to show you a trick that is going to be really handy for a local business here. So let's go into our locations again. So you can see our locations here with the radius, and we have 50 miles over here. We have 20 miles over here. We have 100 miles. Again, like I said, I would probably have this selected to a location that makes sense for your business. Maybe you only want to go 20 miles and you could have one that's 20 miles. You could have one that's 10 miles and one that's 5 miles. And what you can do here is we can say, okay, we want to spend more on this 20-mile one because that's our tightest location. That's closest to our business. We don't have to drive quite as far to take care of that location. So maybe we want to add a 30% increase on that bid. So what it's going to do is it's going to compound those bids. So if you have a bid that's worth $1, you set the bid for $1 in your Google Ads. Now it's going to be $1.30 for this. And that's because it's closer to your business. So we want to spend more money on it. Let's say we have our 50-mile one here and we want to maybe do 10% on this one because we're like, okay, it could be worth more to us. So now it's worth 10%. This one's worth 30%. And so if you have $1 bid, it's going to be $1.10. So anything between 50 and 100 miles, we want to bid down a bit because we don't want to spend quite as much. So let's actually decrease the bid. So you have the increase or you can decrease. And you can come down here and we could put in maybe a 20% decrease. And as you can see right here, Google is already telling you that if you had a $10 bid, it will become an $8 bid. Hit save here. And now you can see that we've decreased that by 20%. So if you have areas that you don't really want to go and service, maybe they're too far, you can decrease the bids, but maybe you still want to kind of service them every once in a while. You want to still show up and keep your toe in that area. You could decrease the bids in those areas and increase the areas that are closer to you, maybe that you want to service more often. You could also do this if you're an e-commerce business. Maybe you had Hawaii and Alaska, but you don't want to spend all your money on Hawaii and Alaska because shipping is so expensive. You could also do a decrease. You could add them as a location target and decrease the bids on those locations. So what happens when you're stacking locations like this? We have a location that's 20 miles. We have one that's covering that 20-mile area because now it's covering an entire 50 miles. And then we have one that's covering both of these at 100 miles. So what's going to happen? Are these going to all combine? That's not the case. And if we go over here, Google actually says that we have multiple bid locations here. These will not stack upon each other. If you set a 50% adjustment for France and 100% for Paris, only the adjustment for Paris, the most specific location, will be adjusted or will be used for the traffic from users in Paris. So if we set one bid for 20 miles, that's going to be the most specific. That's going to be the tightest location. We're going to be adding 30%. So that's going to be 30%. It's not going to add these together. If we had 50 miles, then that's going to be the next location, and then we have 100 miles. So it's not going to stack these upon each other, which is really nice to know. So if we come over here and look at our location, you can see that we'd have a 30% here for this area. Then we'd expand out and we'd have a 10% for this area. And then we expand out to this next area here and we'd have 20%. So it's never going to stack the location bids, but keep in mind it will stack other bid adjustments. So if you're doing other stuff in other parts of your account, say for example on devices and stuff like that, that will end up getting stacked upon this. So keep that in mind, but location bids aren't going to stack upon each other. So feel free to adjust these and make it work for your business. All right, so what do you do once you've been running for a while and you have some data? How would we go about adjusting some of this? As a local business, as a service business, there might be some options for you here. We have our cost over conversion here is a really good metric to watch for when you're running a service business, and conversions. So I'm going to sort by conversions, and you can see that, okay, this is including all the United States. So we're going to ignore that one for now. But we have Maryland is one of the states. So let's say we have 20 conversions in there. So our cost for conversion is $1.40. So that's a lot of conversions, and we're not spending a whole lot of money on that. We're only spending $1.40 to get a conversion. So a conversion could be a phone call if you're a service business, or in this case, it's going to be a sale. So I know that this is probably a great place to start. We could come in here now and say, if we're getting the best cost per conversion here, we might want to look at increasing this. So we could come in here and adjust it to 15% instead of 10%. And now let's flip this around here and let's go cost per conversion, and let's see if we can find the more expensive cost per conversion. You can see that this one has cost $117 per conversion. That's quite high. So we could come down here and maybe we can adjust it a little bit. We could say, okay, instead of 10%, maybe we want 7%. Or maybe you want to go to the extreme and you want to actually lower it and decrease it by 7% and lower the bids. So you have to kind of play in here, and could do a whole video on how to adjust this kind of stuff. But for now, just understand that once you're running for a while, you can come back in here, you can make adjustments into your locations. So it can really help improve your ads if you're pushing the money to the locations that are actually bringing in your conversions. So now that you know a little bit about locations and how to adjust them, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.